You know, Ric Flair, speaking of moronic, Ric Flair, he continues to appear on Monday Night Raw. He spoke with Wrestling Inc. This is what he had to say, because there's been a lot of criticism lobbed at him and the company. Why is he on the shows, especially a guy as old as him, pre-existing conditions and all that? Is it really wise? You know, Ric Flair is like wrestling royalty, and you're trotting him out there week after week at the Performance Center. Well, this is what he had to say. Or part of what he had to say. He's like, Carrano, Ace, Vince himself, I could go down the list of people that are making sure that everybody's life is the best it could possibly be while they're there for the event. I went back the next day. Of course I would. And I've got a pre-existing condition and I'm in my 70s. Let me tell you something. You are safer going to a WWE event than you are going to a Kroger's grocery store. That may well be true now. It doesn't appear that was the case recently. But still, you go to Kroger's to shop for food. You need to go food shopping, right? You don't need to go to the WWE Performance Center. Food shopping is a necessity. Monday Night Raw is not a necessity. And it's certainly not a necessity for this guy in his 70s with a heart condition and a history of blood clots. And I only partially blame Ric Flair for this. I only partially blame Flair for this. The rest is on the company for booking him in the first place. Flair can't help himself. You tell him, hey, Rick, we need you. We need you for this show. We have an angle. We have a story. We need you. What do you think he's going to do? He's going to do whatever they ask of him. WWE should have enough sense on their own. When you have people testing positive left and right, you're missing guys left and right, to say, you know what, Nate? We're not going to tempt fate on this. We love you. Stay home. Be with your wife. Randy will be okay without you. Now, Vince McMahon had desperately wanted SummerSlam in front of a live audience this year. He was trying it every which way. There was talk that he was even open to the idea of pushing SummerSlam for the first time ever back to September. Because technically, the summer doesn't end until, what, third week of September? So it would still technically be the summertime. It would just be weird having a SummerSlam in September. They were just looking at every angle and every possibility. How could we do this in front of a partial audience? Because I'm sure he wants to be able to claim that WWE is the first company or first form of entertainment back in front of a live, true audience, like they were after 9/11. They were crowing about that, right? 2 days after 9/11 or whatever it was. Hey, we're the first gathering since the 9/11, as if anybody gives a shit. Like that was the big story. Now, maybe in this country, eventually they will be. But they won't be able to make that claim for all wrestling promotions because New Japan just resumed shows in front of partial crowds over there. 30% capacity. They had between 3,000 and 4,000 people in the building for both of their shows this weekend. But who knows? Maybe WWE will be the first to do it here. But it won't be next month. While not officially announced yet, all signs point to our first SummerSlam ever at the WWE Performance Center. And there is a rumor. This rumor is being attributed to the YouTube channel Pro Wrestling Unlimited. So I'm not sure how reliable it is. Fightful, I think, had their own report, kind of, I don't want to say backing up the Pro Wrestling Unlimited report, but there is apparently chatter that has gone on about another event a week after SummerSlam. But Pro Wrestling Unlimited claims that there is an idea being batted around in WWE for a network special the Sunday after SummerSlam. So that would be August 30th. SummerSlam is on August 23rd. This would be August 30th. And the two ideas said to be on the table are either for a second week of SummerSlam, which, they did that with WrestleMania, right? They divided WrestleMania. Now, that was just one weekend. That was back-to-back nights, but they divided WrestleMania for the first time this year into 2 nights. We had night 1, we had night 2. Or possibly, instead, it would be a second all-women's Evolution show. Evolution 2. WWE did Evolution 1 2 years ago and have not done one since. I actually thought that first Evolution show was great. I thought it was one of the best pay-per-views WWE put on in all of 2018. But when you're doing karaoke contests with the women on TV, I'm left wondering why even bother with an Evolution 2? What is an Evolution 2 going to look like if they're resorting to segments like the ones we got on SmackDown on Friday night? And also, keep this in mind as well. The only reason we even got an Evolution show in the first place was because they had Ronda Rousey in the main event. They had Ronda Rousey in the main event to promote the entire event around Ronda Rousey against Nikki Bella. That was the big main event. Wasn't Charlotte against Becky Lynch, even though that was the best match on the show. The main event was Ronda Rousey and reality TV star Nikki Bella. And they don't have her. Obviously, they're not going to have her. That's for sure. She looks like she's about to pop if you see any recent photos of her and her sister. So now they don't have Ronda. They don't have any of those women. But the other rumor that is tied into the idea of there possibly being an Evolution 2 is that they either have signed or might soon sign Tessa Blanchard. Free agent Tessa Blanchard, former Impact World Champion Tessa Blanchard, to a deal that they then would be saving her to debut on that show if in fact there was another Evolution show. It does look like AEW doesn't really have any interest in Tessa. They certainly haven't snatched her up yet. It looks like AEW is making a conscious decision to pass on Tessa Blanchard. So I think WWE is probably a very likely landing place for her because they need stars right now. And if they think they have a star in the making in Tessa Blanchard, then they may weigh the pros and cons and say, you know what, whatever her issues have been, we need stars. Becky Lynch is not around anymore. Ronda Rousey is not around anymore. The Bella Twins are not around anymore. Shayna Baszler's not the answer. Vince McMahon has her sampling all of the appetizers in catering in the back. She's busy with that. Then yeah, I could see them wanting to make a big splash with Tessa Blanchard. All of this, though, is just rumor and conjecture at this point. I don't know how reliable a source of information that channel is, but that is a story that I will be following, and if there's any kind of breaking news or updates on that in the next week or two, I will talk more about it here next week on the Sound Off. Before we get to SummerSlam, though, we have The Horror Show at Extreme Rules. That is the official name of this year's pay-per-view, which I am sure you already know since the announcers are forced to say that in that exact way every single time that show gets mentioned. You can't call it Extreme Rules. It's The Horror Show that is Extreme Rules. Poor Samoa Joe on commentary, he's talking about the matches, and you know what, The Horror Show that is Extreme Rules, and I die a little bit on the inside. They have to say it that exact way every single time because that's the way their firmware is programmed. Drew McIntyre defends the WWE title against Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler says he will not reveal the stipulation for their match until bell time. So we will not know the stipulation for that match until we get to Extreme Rules, which is a week from today. I had thought that a ladder match would be the most likely. Ladder matches, cage matches, inside of a building like the Performance Center, not ideal. It's really not, but I'm sure the two of them together in a ladder match could probably put on a hell of a match. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But then he's teasing, I think Dolph was on the bump, and he was teasing that it's going to be a stipulation that maybe we've never seen before. So I'm thinking maybe it's similar to something that he and Vicky Guerrero did when Ziggler wrestled Edge for the World Heavyweight title at the Royal Rumble that one year, where Edge was banned from using the spear. The spear was his signature move, and Vicky, who I guess may have still been the GM at the time on SmackDown, but she banned Edge from using the spear. She took that move away and said, you cannot use that move. If you do, you will lose. You will lose the World Heavyweight Championship. And so maybe he, his stipulation here, kind of borrowing a page from that, is that he bars Drew from being able to use the Claymore kick. They've been putting that Claymore over real strong, as they should. So maybe Dolph takes that weapon away from him. We got Braun Strowman taking on Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt Classic in the first ever swamp fight. The first of two. Yes, what appears to be two cinematic style matches planned for this pay-per-view. They have gone out and gotten a stunt coordinator for this swamp fight, which it looks like I think is being taped this week. They're going to be filming it on location. It is a non-title match. The Universal Championship is not on the line. Probably building to a title match with The Fiend. at Summerslam. The other cinematic match is going to be Rey Mysterio, who is wrestling on a handshake deal, we have learned. He is not wrestling with a contract. His contract expired. He's, I guess, working for them under the terms of his expired deal. But he had gone to Vince McMahon. He had gone to WWE management. He had asked for a pay raise. He was rejected. He was rejected and told, the pandemic, we just, cut a whole bunch of people. We're not giving pay raises out to anybody. And so he is operating under a handshake deal. Technically, look, he could show up as Cody's challenger for the TNT title in the Open Challenge sometime in the next few weeks. I know Cody is wrestling Sonny Kiss this week, but maybe the week after if he wanted to. Technically, there's nothing stopping Rey Mysterio. If Rey Mysterio loses to Seth Rollins at Extreme Rules next Sunday, that Wednesday on Dynamite, Rey Mysterio would legally be free to show up at Daly's place and, hell, challenge Cody for the TNT title. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's a very weird situation. WWE normally would not, I don't even think, have anybody on television who is, somebody wrestling without a contract. They obviously have a lot of trust and faith in Rey Mysterio. I'm going to say that a lot of this has to, and look, Rey is a veteran. He's been around a long time. Maybe they just respect him and trust him. But, Vince McMahon has been burned by enough people over the years where I don't think he probably really trusts anybody. Except maybe John Cena. But let's be honest. This has more to do with Dominic. Dominic is not working without a contract. Dominic is training at the Performance Center. They probably see big things in his future. It's Rey's son. I don't think Rey is going to put the knife in their back. Rey's not going to do anything to screw them over because he's got his son to consider. He has to consider his son and his son's future. But the stipulation for this match at Extreme Rules, it's an eye for an eye match that can only end, and I'm quoting WWE.com here, can only end by extracting your opponent's eye. Plan is to do a taped match with CGI effects that simulate an eye being pulled out of the socket. This is the stupidest thing that I have ever heard. I liked the Boneyard match at WrestleMania. I enjoyed Money in the Bank Die Hard edition. I know not everybody did, but I enjoyed it. And I have no problem with them doing a swamp fight. I'd much rather see a swamp fight with Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt than a frickin' match at the Performance Center. So I have no problem with that. And it fits into their history together, the Wyatts and all that. I get that. But this is just out of control now. It was out of control when they did the Viking Raiders Street Profits stuff at, Backlash, I guess it was, and the ninjas and everything else. My thoughts on ninjas. That was absolutely horrendous, and it made me ashamed that I even watch this show anymore. Now we're getting CGI eyeball nonsense. At a time when the number of eyeballs on the product is as low as it has ever been, this company can ill afford to lose any more eyeballs. Literally or otherwise. This is stupid.